To what degree were Hubbard's ways of knowing legitimate in establishing a religious adversary?
So basically, Scientology is like a religion that was established by this science fiction writer called Ron Hubbard, and he, out of his like.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, I'm sorry. And he like decided to like create this religion out of like his. No, he just kind of spontaneously decided to create it after this success of his book. Got all these followers. Like the main thing that they were attracted to was this thing called auditing, where like you get hooked up to this machine, basically. Well, not hooked up, but like
you grab two poles.
Yeah.
And an auditor, a person who's basically reading your thetan levels, is recording your emotional response to the
whatever provocative questions
being asked.
Yeah. So like the auditor will ask you like, how is your relationship with your mom doing? And if it registers like a positive feedback on the meter as like an electrical impulse, then they'll like continue with that line of questioning. Like, what did you do with your mom last week? How is whatever doing? Like that kind of thing. And
it essentially just pursues less emotional turmoil in your body. That's how
like,
it's viewed.
After you finish a session, you're supposed to be in this. It's called the clear, like with a capital C state of mind, and you're like. All like you feel good, and a lot of people experience like euphoria and stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so one of the main figures in Scientology is Xenu, and so Xenu was the leader of the Galactic Confederacy, and about 75 million years ago, he had a problem with overpopulation in his territory, and so he brought humans in spaceships. And strapped them to volcanoes and then dropped hydrogen bombs onto the volcanoes. So essentially, he murdered spaceships full of humans. So for a while, he's been considered this he's essentially a religious adversary in Scientology. And
a religious adversary is somebody like Satan or something.
Yeah, basically, it's
so he's like
Satan.
the evil, basically
he's the evil figure.
Right.
He's the cause of all humans' turmoil and sadness, which is why Scientology views him as this evil figure.
He's not brought up very often by members of Scientology, just because he's what he did was so crazy.
The other thing is that,
and he's very hidden from people that want to join Scientology because they're given more of a nicer, more peaceful set of beliefs than what that is.
Like you move, the way that you move up the church, like at each level that you progress upwards, you're privy to more important information. So you only get to know about Xenu after you've been in the church for years.
And also donated and paid enough money towards lessons or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So eventually, members of the Galactic Federation rebelled against Xenu and fought him for 6 years before they finally captured him and imprisoned him on a planet that today is called the Barren Desert. He's believed to be within the mountain trap on this unnamed world where he still lives.
So this brings up a lot of questions, Xenu's story specifically, and also just the founding of the religion. But so Xenu committed this crime against humanity essentially, and so one of the ways of knowing, we wanted to discuss how the murder he committed was justified, if it was justified, since he did have this problem with overpopulation, and how can we assume that was or was not okay of him to do?
Well, in Xenu's own world, we have to assume that he was caring for his own kind, right?
Right.
But at the same time, we also have to look at this is all just in L. Ron Hubbard's mind, right?
Yeah, because that's the thing. To go into a little bit more depth with him, and the creation of the whole idea started when Ron Hubbard was L. Ron Hubbard was undergoing a dental procedure, and he had a weird reaction to the painkillers used, and it made him just have this huge revelation about Scientology.
So the next question about that is, how are ethics and morals established, and how are the ones shaped by our current environment affect the way we view Xenu's actions and the extent to which he is considered evil?
Well, I guess John Travolta, for example, he was part of the church, and he he says that the ethics and all that were like very bad, and that's why it's like a bad like thing, and that's why he's the religious adversary. And he says like John Travolta starts talking about how like Scientology is all about, you know, like what was it, like happiness or something?
Yeah, how Scientology wasn't meant to be anything crazy, but like just to pursue happiness in your life and get rid of all the like horrible emotions that are within you because of what Xenu did.
Yeah, like through auditing. So basically what Xenu did, like created these like thetans things, and that's what causes bad emotions.
I think going back to the morals and ethics and comparing those to ways of knowing would be, now we know from our culture and our experiences and just what we're taught like from birth, which is to not kill people and to not ever murder. And so I think now maybe his morals were different, but looking back, what we perceive to be just now definitely does not align with that. And so it's something that would definitely need to be evaluated, whether or not that was, in his case, justified. So the last point that relates to ways of knowing are the dental procedure that I
brought up. Yeah. So like basically, the thing that we were questioning most, like as like I guess you could call it kind of a provocative question, would be like, what kind of ways of knowing did Hubbard use when he created the religion? And like I said, like this is all due to a weird effect of painkillers, and like, so we thought that like the main like way of knowing was actually like his imagination. Like it wasn't like a huge. It wasn't really based on anything that seemed like very factual.
Nothing proven, yeah.
Yeah, nothing was proven.
It was just him like very drugged under anesthetic and that sort of thing, and he was imagining these figures in this almost separate world from the one that we live in.
And a little note to add just to his history is that he was a science fiction writer in the past.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And then also sensory perception, because to him those things that he saw, these figures, Xenu, they were real people, or real figures of this religion, and this world that he imagined, this galactic confederacy, was all part of him perceiving his senses as true. And so that really makes us question this whole religion that has quite a few followers now. Is it all founded just on one person's senses and the way that they imagine something? And then I think it also goes back to intuition and faith, and following his faith in what he believes, and his intuition and thinking that could be established as a real religion.